Story 1. My cousin recorded the audio of a fan for 8 hours about a decade ago and now has over 1 billion white noise YouTube views. It is also one of the top podcasts on Spotify. Story 2. My brother's friend worked minimum wage jobs. Then he and his wife started buying lubricant in large quantities from overseas, repackaging it in smaller quantities in their garage, and reselling it on Amazon. It was classic middleman business, but they made so much money that they quit their day jobs almost immediately and have not looked back. Story 3. I went to high school with Bo Burnham. One day he had a YouTube video go viral. About a week later, he was represented by the same agent as Drew Carey. Ironically, the kid who joked about being unpopular was suddenly very popular due to the success of his jokes. Story 4. He and his brother developed an online game where two cowboys walk away from each other, then turn around and shoot and one dies. The game was entirely automated. You could bet money on who wins, and if you guessed correctly, you would multiply your money by 1.95, with 5% going to the house. They became extremely wealthy. I saw them race sports cars around the world. The last time I checked, they went to prison for tax fraud. Story 5. My uncle invented microscopic machines, small toy cars, in the early 1990s. When I see my uncle next, I will show him this and all the people he brought joy to. Story 6. He forgot that he mined about a dozen bitcoins over a decade ago on his spare notebook. He remembered 3 years ago that he still had that laptop stored in a drawer. Story 7. A classmate in high school climbed and subsequently fell off an electric transmission tower and was seriously injured. Although he was careless, because there were no warning signs or a fence around it, he received a substantial legal settlement from the electric company. Story 8. Telling them about Bitcoin and watching them go by more than 20 plus a bunch of Ethereum. Story 9. A friend was employee number 8 at a technology startup and resigned after the company went public with $35 million in funding. Story 10. A daytime TV show many years ago featured flipping repossessed houses bought at auction. It showed 3 individuals or couples buying a house, fixing it up, and selling it. One man bought 2 houses but did nothing to them, not even cleaning. He simply sold them at market value and made a large profit since the auction price was very low. The show edited it to suggest he was new to the house flipping business and might try harder. In the next episode, even though his profit was greater than the others. In the next 2 episodes, he repeated this with another 7 houses before the production team realized he had no intention of improving any house. He was only using the production crew's contacts and relying on them to do much of the work required for the show. He made over £100,000 on 9 houses while doing very little. The show stopped dealing with him after that. Story 11. Do you all remember silly bands? My friend's father came up with rainbow silly bands and became a millionaire from that. Story 12. A university lecturer at my university was a deep-sea biologist. He was given a sea slug collected during an automated underwater vehicle dive. From the mucus of the sea slug, he isolated bacteria that produced a protein-digesting enzyme effective at low temperatures. He sold this biological enzyme to a major company, I believe Procter & Gamble. The entire concept of biological washing powder that works at 30 degrees Celsius or low temperatures was thanks to him. He went from driving a Ford Escort to a Jaguar, then retired in about a week. Story 13. A small-time YouTuber, someone with fewer than 500 subscribers, whom I personally knew, used to make RuneScape videos. One day, he decided to change things up and do creepypasta readings. Suddenly, he went viral and had 10,000 subscribers after 2 videos. Last I checked, he was just shy of 1 million subscribers. Story 14. Bro had an idea, patented it, pitched it to the owner of GoPro, and got $2.3 million for it. He is a good guy, but I am still a bit jealous. Story 15. Not rich, but my friend told me about how he went to the strip club one night downtown. He stayed until 3 o'clock in the morning, and then, when he left, he walked outside to find a lot of $20 bills blowing in the wind down the street. So he grabbed as much as he could. He couldn't explain where it came from. No one was around at the time and the streets were empty. Story 16. Big lottery winners who are not satisfied and keep buying more lottery tickets and win again. I do not mean 1 or 2 million, but those mega ball winners who hit 10 or more. then play and win millions or more a year later. Story 17. A friend of mine started selling her socks after wearing them at her retail job. She began making $7,000 a month from that alone. Story 18. A friend of a friend was at the garbage dump with a friend and found a bag filled with a bunch of cash. They split it and he hid it under his bed, then used it to pay tradespeople and other expenses. It sounds suspicious, but like something from a book. Story 19. My uncle's company made wood shaving tools. One day, Martha Stewart used one to grate cheese on her television show. Thus, the microplane was born. Story 20. My ex back in high school, from 2015 to 2016, invested in Bitcoin. He made a really good profit, then promptly spent it on the largest amount of drugs I have ever seen in my life. Stacks upon stacks of it. He rarely sold and just ran through it all with his two friends in about a month. There are reasons we are not together anymore. Story 21. A private video was distributed by a family member. The Kardashian family's wealth is extraordinary. Story 22. A guy from the United Kingdom created a web page with 1 million pixels and put each pixel up for sale for advertising. Companies went crazy over it, buying every pixel. It was genius, really. The website was still functional the last time I checked, although all the links were dead. I think the guy ended up going to Silicon Valley and starting Calm. Obviously, a very bright person. Story 23. RuneScape. Someone I know made millions selling and buying gold pieces, the currency of RuneScape. Then, they received cease and desist letters from the game makers Jagex, so they sold their company to a competitor with a royalty deal. Story 24. A friend of a friend sold drugs in the early 2010s. Some sales were done in Bitcoin. He went to jail for 5 years and came out with what was now a few million in Bitcoin that he didn't touch during its biggest booms. It took about a decade, but what had seemed like a huge mistake left him an accidental millionaire and meant he didn't need to return to a life of crime when he got out. He went on to live a frugal lifestyle as a humble cryptocurrency trader. Story 25. A good friend of mine started trading stocks after retirement. He trades exchange-traded funds every day in his underwear. He does it all on his phone or iPad. He retired 3 years ago. So far this year, he has made $1.3 million. It is incredible. Story 26. What about the person who traded a paperclip for a pencil, then for a deck of cards, eventually trading it for a car and then a house? Story 27. Somebody overcame a difficult setback in his computer business by selling new skin products through multi-level marketing. Then he achieved great success. Story 28. A friend of mine used an application to create a variety of notebooks and diaries using free templates, then sold them through Amazon. Amazon supplied the books, printed the covers, and sold them while my friend relaxed and earned money with minimal effort. This method does not work anymore, but they made enough to not have to worry about it. Story 29. A house in a low-income neighborhood caught fire. A copywriting expert who was also a community leader started a campaign to raise funds for the family purely on WhatsApp. He raised $200,000 over 2 days and handed all the money to them on the third day. Story 30. A relative of mine was unfaithful to her husband with a very wealthy man and then married him. Does that count? Story 31. Kim Kardashian had a relationship with a rapper, and her mother sold the tape. As far as ridiculous and absurd situations go, this is about as extreme as it gets. Story 32. Also cryptocurrency, but I have seen more people lose money. It only makes sense for someone who will not need access to what they are investing for years. Ideally, they will never need it because some cryptocurrency goes up and down. Other cryptocurrency goes down and stays down. Story 33. Didn't one of the early investors and co-founders of Facebook, not Mark Zuckerberg, write a book about how fundamentally broken the current technology and capital markets are, stating that he was able to amass more than $1 billion in fortune by doing just a few months of work? Story 34. Paycheck Protection Program and employee retention credit money during the pandemic. The general public does not really understand how much money was distributed. Story 35. Pointy Hat on YouTube worked for it, but still, 2 years to a second income while working full-time is a great fallback. Many of his co-workers do not realize he makes more in 1 day of shooting than they make all week. Story 36. A distant acquaintance was in China before COVID-19 started and anticipated the need for masks. Back home, he went to his bank, but they did not want to give him money. So he borrowed $100,000 from a local drug cartel to buy a container load of masks from China. 2 months later, these masks were worth $2.5 million. He paid back his debt and is a rich man now. That was a very bold move. Story 37. Someone in my close family circle started a company focused on cryptocurrency security. It was worth 75 million euros 6 months later and 1.5 billion euros 5 years after. Quite fast. Story 38. Became friends with some people in college who turned out to be the founding members of Dude Perfect. He is now a regular and just won an Emmy for shows he has done for them. Another is Brittany Dawn. It is a whole story. The surprising thing is realizing both these people went to the same high school in the same year, in a class of about 100 people. Story 39. Knew a man who thought there was a market for single-serving lubricant packets, like fast food ketchup packets, but for lubricant. He marketed them to truck stops and other places frequented by budget-conscious people who spend a lot of time on the road and do not want to bring a bottle of lubricant home where their partner might notice it. Turns out he was right. Before he was even 30, he had enough money to retire more or less and pursue his hobbies of custom German cars, fancy dogs, and mountain biking. Story 40. Friends of my cousins. Back in the early 2000s, my husband was having an ultrasound. When they put that conductive gel on the area to be scanned, the technician commented that the gel was very expensive and that they went through tubs of it quickly. My husband spent a few weeks researching it and found a manufacturer in China. He then spent several weeks ensuring the product met regulations, and soon he was in business. In the first year, he sold the product right out of his house, going door to all clinics in Toronto. In that year, he made $450,000 in sales. In the second year, he and his wife quit their jobs to focus on the business, achieving over $1 million in sales annually. Today, it is a $100 million business, and he owns the manufacturing facility in China. He used to drive a bus, and his wife was a dental hygienist. I asked about it because he arrived in a new Ferrari. Story 41. I know the person who invented bomb-proof bins, which are garbage cans used in public places. He is not very wealthy but lives comfortably, and you can see his bins all over the United Kingdom. Probably took years of development, but once they reached the market, he became wealthy quickly. Story 42. Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency alternative coins, mostly from 2020 to 2022. Story 43. I had a friend who grew up on a dairy farm in the Midwest. He started packaging manure in number 5 burlap sacks as organic fertilizer, which is honestly the best kind. He loaded his old farm truck and went to a farmer's market in Minneapolis. He sold out in a couple of hours, was offered distribution shortly after, and now he is very successful, living in his mansion with his old farm truck. Story 44. Signed up for my stock purchase plan my employer gave me, and am very happy I did. Story 45. Selling immediately the land they inherited from their parents is funny and ironic. The older generation kept the land and took care of it, thinking about their kids' future and ensuring they had a land to build a house on, only for it to be sold right away because their kids preferred the money more. My cousins already sold their portion of land even though their mother is still alive and the land is not fully subdivided yet. It was a mess. Story 46. My friend was a backyard wrestler in high school. There were many rumors all over school about the crazy things that would happen at these wrestling matches, the most famous probably being someone using a cheese grater on his head. I remember I was an office assistant when it all started, and the principal had to send a memo to all the teachers about it. He eventually got noticed by Music Television and was featured on a couple of their shows, including Music Television True Life. I Am a Backyard Wrestler. At some point, he was offered his own show. The show was canceled before they ever filmed anything, but since he had signed the contract, they had to pay him for at least one season, which turned out to be about $2 million. From there, he went to law school while still doing amateur wrestling on the side. I forget what his wrestling name was. On a curious side note, I was attending community college at the time and ended up in a study group with his mother. I had been studying with her for months before even realizing she was his mother. He finished law school and became a successful attorney. For a while, he was interested in going into politics, but I'm pretty sure he is just teaching now. We have kind of lost touch over the years. We were even somewhat flirty for a while and went on a couple of dates, but nothing came of it. That's how it goes, I guess, but I'm sure wherever he is doing well. Story 47. Roaring Kitty turned $50,000 into hundreds of millions with GameStop. A few months ago, when GameStop shot back up to $80 in a few days, he was just shy of $600 million if he sold. Even now, with the stock back to the $20 range, he is still well into the hundreds of millions from a $50,000 investment. Story 48. Go to work for a small startup called Dell straight after college in Austin, Texas, in the 1980s. Receive a number of future shares as a welcome to the startup incentive. Work there for a while. The company goes public and the shares suddenly become very valuable. It is the epitome of being in the right place at the right time. Story 49. I know several people who started importing masks and selling them online during COVID-19 at reasonable prices. They became instant millionaires. Story 50. A friend of a friend found 23 bitcoins on an old hard drive in 2017, which he obtained by selling some magic. The gathering cards he had from high school on MTGOX in 2012. He sold the bitcoins in 2017, then invested all the proceeds in Tesla at €70 per share before the stock split. He is not very smart. I remember helping him retrieve the coins from MTGOX 12 years ago. For what it is worth, his magic, the gathering cards would now be worth well over €75,000. He bought a house for around €1 million and paid in cash a couple of years ago. He drives a top-spec Audi Q7 and smokes 5 grams of cannabis every day. I occasionally go to clubs with him, and with a designated driver present, he gets everyone very intoxicated on the most expensive drinks available. He is a good guy but is completely convinced he deserves everything he has and believed he was destined to get rich one way or another. Story 51. Bitcoin. We all bought some held out and some sold. Kevin in the sign shop held on to his. He is doing pretty well now. Story 52. 1. Take off socks. 2. Take a photo of your feet. 3. Upload the photo of your feet. 4. Make money. Source: tax professional. Story 53. My friend's uncle invented the Sunday to Monday pill organizer and started a business around that product. It is now worth more than $500 million. Another one of my friends went to Yale and won a $40,000 jackpot at a casino. Another student convinced him to give the money to help start a hedge fund back in 2014, and now it is worth about $80 million. Story 54. A friend of mine from my early 20s had a father who invented an important component of automated teller machines and earned approximately $100 million. My friend became vice president of his father's company at the age of 25 and never looked back. He is very wealthy but remains a great person and has never let the money go to his head. Story 55. My neighbor in Alabama owned a mining company and discovered a single piece of quartz worth a few $1,000,000. Story 56. Bitcoin. Years ago, I had a coworker who went from about $30,000 to over $1 million in less than a year. He showed me the account to prove it. My understanding is there were forums back then where people would collude on when to buy and sell. I do not know enough about it, but to go from $30,000 to $1 million in a year is incredible. Story 57. Haley Welch, known as Hawk to a Girl, has a net worth of $12.5 million, growing significantly every day. Story 58. Divorce. The wife received half of the assets, the house, and a new husband to share it all with. Story 59. My friend played poker online and earned a very decent amount of money in one session. For me, it is a strange way, but he was lucky. Story 60. Someone got rich by selling mystery boxes filled with junk. Story 61. Ringtones and domain squatting. I met this person at an old job about 15 years ago. He had bought a couple of random domain names years before during the great internet land rush and was in the process of selling them. Really meaningless names like Snoops.com or something like that. I think he was selling Snoop.com and Snoops.com for about $165,000 altogether. So, $35 per year for maybe 5 years per domain. He was not rich, but that was a pretty good return on investment. The same person also got into making ringtones when the iPhone came out. He was handy at recording sounds, so he recorded various noises like typing and doors opening and closing. Then he got a small keyboard and started making short musical ringtones, just little 15-second tunes of improvised keyboard over built-in drum beats. One of them was a catchy little riff. The last time I spoke to him, he had made over $750,000 selling these ringtones for 79 cents each at 2007 prices. This person had made almost $1 million from just a couple of ideas with minimal effort. Story 62. My cousin started making small pride flags and selling them at events, then online. Then he expanded to shirts and stickers, doing the whole 9 yards. Later, he targeted the MAGA crowd and made tons of pro-Donald Trump gear and merchandise, as well as Black Lives Matter merchandise, which made him a killing. Let's Go Brandon grossed $980,000 in 1 year, and Feel the Burn brought in $311,000. He is 24 and always says, "These people will buy anything no matter what, so just slap it on, print it and sell it." Story 63. Bitcoin. Some person I knew distantly made millions during COVID. They bought a large amount of land in Thailand and established an elaborate burner, circus, new age performance, and living space. They also purchased several local businesses that were at risk of closing, effectively saving them. I personally think it is still a form of colonization, but the person is creating the land pirate ship of their dreams. Story 64. A teacher at my middle school was fired for sexually assaulting a female student. The school did not investigate and fired him immediately after the accusation. The student later admitted that she had fabricated the entire story to punish him for failing her. He sued the school and won a settlement of several $1 million. He will never need to work again. Story 65. OnlyFans. I can't understand how addicted people are to content these days that these models make $80,000 in a month. Whereas I, having studied hard, am still studying hard to graduate. Life is hard. Story 66. I sort of knew Eric the Electric from the old bodybuilding.com forums, specifically a thread dedicated to bicycling. He seemed like a pretty normal mid-20s guy into fitness. Then he absolutely blew up on YouTube for doing weekly 20,000 calorie challenges and similar content. He had over 1 million subscribers the last time I checked, but appears to have struggled a lot with mental and physical health issues as a result of these challenges and the toll they have taken on his body and mind. Story 67. It was not too absurd, but I had a friend who was struggling to manage his small business. He had a handful of locations. To keep up, he hired someone to write software to help manage the business. Then the other franchisees all wanted his software, so he pivoted to the software business. A few years later, he sold it for a considerable amount of money. Story 68. One time we were catering a wedding at a very large mansion. The owner had a genuine Banksy on his wall, and my boss told me he got rich from inventing the seal on chip bags. Story 69. I know a girl who had a stage light fall from the ceiling and land on her head during a production. We live in Los Angeles, so commercials, television, and movies are the main industries here. She won millions in a lawsuit and workers' compensation. She bought a hotel in Panama with the money and never really has to work a day in her life. Story 70. A couple started a pet rock business in the 1970s and became instant millionaires. It is absurd but true. Story 71. My son sold marijuana and made approximately $60,000 from it in 1 year. Allegedly, he lied frequently but definitely sold marijuana. Story 72. I think it was called capitalism. The other one was Hawk Tua. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.